Welcome to the Soul Archaeology podcast, a space for connection, resonance, witnessing, and learning. Together we'll harvest medicine from the spiral of life, sharing conversations with other embodied humans who have navigated their own initiations and found alignment with their true soul essence. With weekly astrology, energy updates, embodied conversation, and channeled teachings, this is a space for you to land and find resonance with the spiral of your own soul. Hello, welcome back to Soul Archaeology. I'm so happy to be here. I just recorded an episode with Unique Hammond, who is a nutritionist and follows the Bean Protocol by Karen Hurd and has group courses and does one-on-one work. And it was just so exciting and nourishing. And we're in our new place. It's raining. There are hawks in the trees. There are parrots, which you'll probably hear as we move along. And now I'm looking out the window and there's a cat. So I feel like there's so much happening since we moved from our old place, and I just feel like there's a lot of magic in the air with Pluto shifting into Aquarius. And I know it's been intense for many of you. I've talked to many of you, through sessions and on Instagram and just email and things like that, and it sounds like this transit has been sort of split. A lot of people feeling a lot of relief and a lot of people feeling more intensity, and that's really the nature of these big shifts. They land and affect all of us differently, and it's important to really listen to what's occurring for you and not compare yourself to someone else's experience, because there have been so many different transits which were really expansive, activating, exciting, light for people that were really dense and heavy work for me. And that's just the case. We all have a very unique birth chart, soul blueprint, which aspects these transits differently. And so just remember that you are a unique individual having an extremely unique experience on this planet, and you can relate with other people's experiences. But at the end of the day, you have your own roadmap, and what you're experiencing is extremely important and is very unique to you. It's such an interesting time because it almost feels like, we're having this fresh start, this new beginning, this activation of new energy, but we all have the awareness that we'll be dipping back, and the Pluto will be dipping back into Capricorn in the fall. So it's just an interesting time because it feels like we're creating new patterns, beginning new systems, rewiring things, and there's a lot of energy to support those processes. But we do know that in order to really move forward, we have to always, kind of like dip back in and harvest what's left in the past that is needed for the future. So it's a really big week. And I think many of us are feeling this sort of the whispers and the glimpses of what the next chapter holds for us. And it's an important time to be present with what you're experiencing in order to gain clarity. The interesting thing about Aquarius, and I'm not going to go so much into this Pluto shift because my whole last episode was about that. And, I don't want to sort of be redundant here, but I think one of the things about Aquarius is that we don't always think about is that it is very disciplined, and it seeks discipline through clarity, through things being quite straightforward. It's mind oriented, which isn't always the best, right? The interesting thing about the Aquarius Leo axis, we are in Aquarius season. We have a Leo full moon on the 25th that's upcoming. So the interesting thing about this axis is that it's about the mind and the heart. And that's so much of what we'll be examining as we move into this next 20-year chapter is, where are we relying too much on the mind? Where are we letting the mind sort of run the show to create its own programs to project our reality from experiences that aren't realistic for us in the moment, that aren't true for us, or maybe things we've inherited or things that have been conditioned or things that occurred in the past that aren't actually occurring in this present moment? And where do we rely too much on the mind, on intellectualization, on, giving the mind too much power to sort of, like I said, run the show? And where are we disconnected from our hearts? So I believe that so much of what this shift is it's a return to the heart. This, when we zoom out, sort of see it from the eagle's eye perspective, this returning to the heart is a lot of what we're working towards as a collective. And so much of our connection to our own heart is reflected in our relationships. And so when I'm working with clients and we're, doing relational work, we're almost always doing heart work, heart wall work, to look at where we've created systems, programs, walls, defense mechanisms to protect that very vulnerable space. And as you know, in order to be in really deep, full connection to another, we have to feel safe in connection with self. So connecting to our own hearts is the first step in really healing our connections and our relationships. And in an interesting way, I feel like this first full moon in Leo, with Pluto being in Aquarius, this is the first Pluto moon aspect, significant one, the first full moon that's aspecting Pluto in this new chapter. And it's a big one. In many ways, it feels like sort of like a fresh start. Not that we're, wiping the slate clean and that we're, clearing automatically all of the past experiences that have created wounds or programs or patterns within our systems, but it's an opportunity to really get clear. Full moons are illuminating. And when the moon's in Leo, it's all about the heart. It's all about the way we connect to self and the way we connect to others, how we embody the heart through our lived experience. It's about joy, passion. Leo gets, a bad reputation because it can be quite dramatic, but that's also its power. That's also its gift and its medicine, is its enthusiasm about life and its zest. And that's what we're going to be sort of working with in this next chapter is embodiment of the heart over releasing control to the mind. And we'll need to really be sort of cognizant of this axis as we move through life as we know it for the next 20 years. It's a long chapter, so we'll kind of move in and out of this work, but noticing where we're sort of defaulting to, this world of technology, social media, disconnection from intimacy, from true, real intimacy, in-person connection, heart connections. And that's one of the shadow aspects of the Aquarian age, is that we can get lost in the sort of disconnection that this technological scientific era brings. And Leo asks for true, pure, joyful connection. It asks for real experience. It asks for real expression. And when we think about a full moon is the end of a lunar cycle. It's the most illuminating point within the cycle because the moon is full. It's being illuminated by the sun, of course. It's opposite the sun. So we have this full revealing of sorts. And what's being revealed is our relationships to others, and our relationship to self, our relationship to joy, to passion, to expression. And with Pluto being opposite this moon, so Pluto is forming a pretty loose conjunction to this full moon. The full moon's at 5 degrees, Pluto's at 0 degrees Aquarius right now, so it's definitely aspecting it, but pretty loosely, and it's also forming a square to Jupiter in Taurus. So there's this theme of liberation, of positivity, of sort of setting ourselves free from the boxes, the expectations, the programs that sort of run within our relational framework, within our creative framework even. So where are you limiting yourself? Where are you allowing the mind to run programs that aren't authentic to your heart's programs? Where are there sort of disconnections or miscommunications between the heart and the mind? Is there an imbalance there? With Jupiter squaring this moon and Leo having a tendency to be very expressive, if not dramatic at times, there could be some dramatism that's brought into this week. So just kind of note where you're potentially overreacting. Take enough space to process what's surfacing for you, to know that this is an opportunity, this first full moon of this Aquarian cycle, an opportunity to rewire some of these, hardwired patterns. So if you have a reaction to something that is the same reaction you have every time your partner says something that way, you have the same reaction. This is an invitation to illuminate that, to see it, and to decide to respond differently, to explore where that reaction comes from. Is it coming from an old wound from childhood? Where have you felt this before? What relationships have brought this experience or this feeling forward for you before? Another interesting aspect of this axis of Aquarius and Leo is that it's Leo tends to be more dramatic, focused on the self. It tends to be focused on being center of stage. And Aquarius is all about the people. It's all about the collective. It's much less dramatic. It's much more intellectual, scientific, strategic. And so this will really illuminate any ways in which you've become sort of egocentric or absorbed with your own journey and not that of the collective. It will illuminate your role in this great global shift, the importance of you pulling out of your individual processes to integrate what's happening collectively as well. And this is a very delicate dance, and I don't sort of give one prescription fits all approach, because I think that we all have a different capacity for integrating what's occurring in the world. I don't recommend people watch the news or media, or I just think that it's an individual experience, but that we all have a responsibility to show up in service in some way. And that can look like shifting your own individual patterns, healing your childhood trauma so that you don't pass on generational trauma to your own children or to the world. It can look like, humanitarian, philanthropic work. It can look like volunteering, organizing, sharing, or it can, put your own unique spin on it. But I just encourage you to spend some time this week to start to sit with, what is your service to the world? This is something I talk a lot about within my mentorship and also in my astrology and one-on-one sessions, but I do believe this is unique to each individual, and it means something differently to each person. And it could be being a wonderful mother, or it could be, being a thought leader or an activist. So, but it's important to really recognize that this experience is not only about our experience, it's about our experience in relation to the world, and how we can sort of be of service to this great collective shift that we see ourselves in, how we can, where we're maybe leaning more towards the Leo of being, in the center, life revolves around us, or where we're maybe too in the Aquarian construct, where we forget that we're having a lived experience here and that affects the collective as well. So just notice this push and pull a little bit. This is a really big full moon. Like I said, it's aspecting Pluto. It's also aspecting Jupiter. So it can lean towards dramatic. So just allow yourself to feel and experience what you need to this week. Don't judge it. Just let it come through you, move through you. That's how we heal. We also have Uranus stationing direct this week. So we'll finally be in a space where the planets are direct. This is going to be a nice, few months. We near eclipse season in March, and so February, early March are going to be really telling as far as what we're here to experience over the next chapter. Uranus and Jupiter are significant players in 2024, so you can go back and listen to my 2024 forecast episode to receive that insight, but it finally feels like we're sort of turning the page and starting to shift the energy to more of a forward motion, which is so nice. So just notice this week how your light illuminates your life, how your light illuminates your relationships, how your light illuminates the people around you, how it sort of creates this ripple effect. And that's, one of the beautiful things about Leo is that it's exciting and it's joyful and it's bright and it's expressive. And I know the Leos in my life, I get a lot of life force from. They inspire me to be more expressive, to be more open. And also thinking about at the energetic level, how that light can heal the world. How you embodying your light can heal the world. That's pretty amazing. I realized I have not been pulling a card lately, which is interesting. I thank you all for being so patient as I've been navigating this underworld space and processing grief through my body and my lungs and my throat and all the things. I'm still in that process, but I feel like I'm kind of anchored back now that we're home. So I have a card for today, and I'm still working with the Untamed Elemental deck. Every time I tune in that deck always comes forward because it just feels so in alignment to all the messages right now. And what's interesting is I just pulled it so it would be really accurate for the messaging of now, but it's the Eagle card. And we were just talking about eagle medicine, so this is really cool. And it's all about perspective. Eagle's domain is in the heights. He transcends the laws of velocity with his certainty, a performance unorthodox to the five senses. With the sky's blessing, this prideful raptor glide allows him to see it all. From mountaintops to woodlands, he takes in his sovereign and privileged view, informed by instinct and guided by inner substance. He is restricted by nothing. His flight is extravagant because he claims his divinity with the sobriety of a saint. He is unfettered by pettiness or preference. He mates, nests, and hunts with the confidence of a clairvoyant, trusting that he has found his place in the universe. Eagle asks, you hold the high watch. The sublime comes to you disguised as your life. This is the vantage point of the eagle. For him, duality-based preferences have no relevance, and there is only source energy in full expression. Any initiation, boon, or boredom is a gift to your soul's evolution and growth. In this way, each trial and victory are the same thing. There is nothing in the world that can delay you from fulfilling your soul's primary purpose when you hold his aerial perspective. When it's balanced, you have the ability to love all of one's life without the interference of preference. Imbalanced, aversive, and pettiness. To bring into balance, spend an entire day suspending all opinions. And I love that perspective on Eagle because there's so much power in zooming out of the experience and sort of viewing it from that perspective, pausing the response or the reaction until you can sort of view it from that space of clarity. And I think that's a lot of what this week will be asking of us, is to really zoom out of the drama, zoom out of the moment, of course, feel what we need to, but also, bring some light to the experience and just observe what's there, what's happening, why is it happening. Also being in full expression, expressing your light through the world so that you can inspire others with your light, and noticing where you're focusing too much on the self and where there's a focus of service that's needed. So I hope you all have such a beautiful, beautiful week. Thank you for your support as always. The ratings, reviews, sharing on Instagram, it means the world. Truly, it's, I don't have ads or sponsors or anything like that. So that really keeps the podcast moving forward. So thank you. I love you all. Thank you also for the sweet messages about Arlo. They keep kind of coming through, and it just truly means the world. I think when we can grieve in community, it is what heals, actually. I think the grief process can happen. It comes in waves, and there are times when it's important to grieve privately, just with one's self and really do that excavation work. And then it's important to share the grief as well, not only for yourself, but to create a safe space for others to grieve and to express their grief and to share their grief. So happy full moon, happy Pluto and Aquarius. Feel free to share your experiences, how this episode landed for you, what you're experiencing with this transit and this shift. I'll have some fun guests coming on. I have quite a few interviews over the next few weeks, which is super exciting. So I have some fun guests in the works and in the mix, and I'll continue with my energy updates and excited to move into 2024. It feels like really fresh, electric energy, and I'm so here for it. Have a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you next week.